Welcome to a special edition of Ancient Geeks, a podcast about two geeks of a certain age returning to their younger selves, or in this case, comparing their younger selves, watching the old Superman movie to watching the new Superman movie. So we're looking in both directions, past and future, which is appropriate for Superman, the Man of Tomorrow. But it also means we have eyes that swivel in two different directions, which is disturbing.
It's
Anyway,
painful.
I'm your co-host, Tom Grant.
And I'm your co-host, Stephen Taylor.
And we were geek before it was chic, before blockbuster superhero movies were what everybody went to watch in the summertime.
Or in fact,
Uh,
the only thing people go to the movies to
the
watch.
only thing, right, that appeared multiple times on the New York Times list of the best 100 movies of the 21st century. Some superhero movies in there.
Yes.
So today we're going to talk about the brand new Superman movie, and we're recording this as a special episode. If this were a comic book or a DC comic book, this would be an 80-page super special.
There you go.
If it were Marvel, it would be a giant size
Or
edition.
it'd be
Anyway,
Ancient Geeks Annual #1.
there we go. And this won't be the only special edition that we do. There's another blockbuster movie coming out this summer that we're also going to do a special episode like this.
He means Downton Abbey.
Yes, that's it. That's it. That's a different kind of geek than. All right, so we're going to make sure that we don't spoil anything in this episode. We're going to give our reactions in a general way at the beginning, and then later in the episode, we will clearly mark where we're going to start getting into spoiler territory. Uh,
Correct.
so uh, we're going to skip over some of the usual things we do in the episode about soundtracks and so forth. I think it's worth talking about merch at the end. Um, all right, so on a scale of likability, at the top of the scale in the Superman universe are Ma and Pa Kent. At the bottom of the scale, the most annoying sort of character is Mr. Mixelplick. Where would you rank this movie in terms of likability using the Superman universe as your standard?
So yeah, I'm having a hard time trying to. It's definitely not to Mon Pa Kent. I'm tempted to go Lois Lane. Oh, that's still pretty high, maybe slightly higher than I would want. But
Okay.
as we're about to find out, I like this movie more than you did. So I'm going to go Lois Lane.
All right, I'm going to go Jimmy Olsen. Not the contemporary Jimmy Olsen, but the Jimmy Olsen of the time when we were reading the comics.
So, I
Uh,
mean, even that's its own scale. I mean, is it the Jimmy Olsen from the TV show who was truly annoying? Is it the Jimmy Olsen of Jack Kirby? Or, who knows what?
I would say, sort of the Kurt Swan era Jimmy Olsen
Okay,
with his
fair enough.
ZZZ watch. Anyway, we're
Here's
already
the thing
getting
about
too,
that watch. I think you got regret about that watch more than once on the podcast already.
it's true. I don't know what it is about that watch. Maybe I'm just a Luddite. All
It's
right,
it's Grumpy Geeks this week.
Grumpy Geeks. It's Grumpy Geeks every week.
I know it is.
We have something, always something to be grumpy about. Okay, so how would you encapsulate in a non-spoiler way how you felt about this movie?
So, my impression after going to the movie. Now, I'll go ahead and preface, right? I felt pretty good on what teasers I had seen, and I limited myself to I think two of the trailers, one of the true teaser and the one trailer. I didn't read anything about the movie. I came in cautiously optimistic about the film because I didn't like the Snyder version of Superman, so this seemed like a reset in that regard. And I guess I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. I enjoyed it. I thought that if I'm gonna, my one line review is for me, it was like reading a good, entertaining comic book, not a mind-blowing comic book, not top tier, but like this week I went to the comic shop and I got a story and I enjoyed reading it. And I think this, to me, that's my one line review. I can get deeper into that in a moment. What about your one line review?
So my one-line review is I agree with you about it having the feel of a comic book, and that was one of its achievements. My one-line review, though, is I liked the depiction of Superman as a character.
Hmm.
I did not like Superman the movie.
Okay. So
That's my summary.
I would say that I was, man, again, this expectations are everything. I have not watched all the DC universe movies. I've watched enough of them, and the ones that stick in my head are I've watched Aquaman and The Flash and both Wonder Woman movies, and of that list, and then pieces of Justice League and pieces of the various Snyderverse stuff. And of those movies, the only one that I would say was a decent movie to me was Wonder Woman, the first one, and even that I'd
Hmm.
never had any particular interest to go back and watch it again. The rest of them all feel just like they're constructed out of spare parts and um, don't have any heart and really don't really, I'm not sure what the point is, right? And again,
Right.
not to go down this, and I know you haven't seen it, but The Flash is a great example. It's a movie that in some ways resets itself in a way that like, why did we even do all of this? I mean, it doesn't even have a satisfactory, even faux emotional ending in my mind.
Okay,
Um,
just to put out one of these
sure.
really crazy theories, the reason why they made that movie, money.
Could it be? Yes.
You can
Well,
bring
that's the
back
reason.
Michael Keaton and make lots and lots of money.
Well, I don't know if that worked actually, but
Yeah,
I enjoyed the Michael Keaton part, but that was pure nostalgia speaking as an ancient geek.
yeah.
Um, regardless. So here's what I would say about the movie again in a generic sense, and then I'll toss it back to you, and you can say why you liked the character but not the movie. I thought as a film, I felt I was pretty happy with the pacing of the movie. I didn't want to know what time it was. I thought it was I liked a lot of the characters. I thought I really liked Corin Sweat, I get his name right, as Superman and as Clark.
Yeah.
I think in some ways again, this is one viewing, and there's a lot of Superman out there to compare him to. But he's my favorite Superman right now, going back before at least since Christopher Reeve. I mean, I find him the more compelling as Superman. I liked him as Clark Kent. I was pleased that it was not an origin story. That's not really a spoiler. I think it's good for people to know if you're going to go to see this movie, it's not oh my God, one more time, we're going to launch the baby from
Right.
Krypton, which is
Right.
just a problem across a lot of superhero movies. I'm glad that we've gotten away from that need. Now, there's stuff about the origin that's important to the film, but and that's not a spoiler either. It's pretty early on in the film, but I thought it was, I thought it was corny and sweet in the right way. I thought that Superman was a big Boy Scout in the right way. I really thought that Rachel Brosnahan was a great Lois Lane. She really is, to me, the best Lois
Agreed.
Lane of all time. Just even from this one, I don't think that's really being ridiculous. I mean, part of it's the way the character's developed in the comic. She's become, and I'm not like well versed in all of modern Superman, but I've read enough. I find Lois to be a more compelling character in the more contemporary books. I thought that Nicholas Hoult was good as Lex Luthor. I really liked, surprisingly, even though we dissed Jimmy Olsen, I thought that this Skylar Gonzando was really good as Jimmy Olsen in a way that I didn't
Yeah.
expect. And my other revelation was try to get these names pronounced beforehand. Ed Gathegi, and that's not right. I looked it up though. I thought he was terrific as Mr. Terrific.
Yeah.
So I felt entertaining. I didn't feel like I wasn't disappointed, and maybe that was a low bar. Um, and I'll say one last thing, and I'll kick it to you. I thought there's a review by Glenn Weldon on NPR that captures my understanding, my feeling about the movie, and which I think is a non-spoiler review. If you're trying to figure out whether you want to go see this movie or not, I feel like I enjoyed enough that I'm glad I went. So I would recommend going to see it. How about you, Tom? What's your you're all negative, Mr. Negative over there. Go ahead.
That's me. I'm not Mr. Terrific. I'm Mr. Negative. But I'm negative in a terrific way. So I would say it was a lost opportunity.
Okay.
Um, I I'm not sure that this is a movie that will, let's say, endear a new generation of youngsters to Superman.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that because I think that it should be a kids movie. Far from it. I think it should be a movie that is has something for people of all ages
Hmm.
and not just old comic nerds like you and me. Um,
We're the most important.
guilty as charged.
That's right. You mean old white guys shouldn't have all the power? Come on.
Yeah. So here's what really bugged me.
Okay.
I also stayed away from reviews. I
Hmm.
stayed away from clips from the movie. I only saw the first couple of trailers. And the first one, like when you and I both saw that,
Hmm.
we thought, oh my God, someone gets Superman.
Hmm.
The iconic character, that embodies hope and kindness and sacrifice and all these things that, when you say truth, justice, and the American way, certainly fall either in those first two words or in the, larger category of things that, kind of the Superman version of the American way.
Hmm.
Um, that was great. I got a little verklempt, I'll
Hmm.
be honest, watching that, especially, with crypto running up and, take me home, boy, that was
Hmm.
great, right?
Hmm.
So I felt like somebody understood the core of Superman.
Hmm.
And then I went to watch the movie, and that was still there, but it was surrounded by all sorts of Hollywood noise and spectacle and
Hmm.
CGI at the expense of things like developing some of the characters better. Um, you know, not pulverizing the audience with noise. I saw this in IMAX,
Hmm.
and I kind of felt assaulted by the end of
Hmm.
it. I was just ready to get out of the theater. Like I had a thought I was leaving during the credits. Yeah, and I thought, well, if there's an end credits sequence, if they slip that in Marvel style, I'm gonna miss it. But I kind of have to get out of this theater.
Hmm.
I'm done with this movie, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Anyway, and the other thing that just didn't work for me, although I agree with a lot of the things that you said were good,
Hmm.
and we'll cover that in more depth. I didn't like the snarky humor, and it just felt like they couldn't sustain the good Superman movements without
Hmm.
sticking in some of the snark, or the really deep comic references that I think it's hard for somebody who understands the comic references to really evaluate uh, what kind of resonance that might have with somebody who just like the millions who saw the first Superman movie and didn't go in with expectations about
Hmm.
Superman. That if there something in there wasn't familiar to them, maybe that would be appealing to them. So I saw it with somebody who hadn't read a bunch of comics the way
Right.
that you and I had. And, there was some interest in some of those things and just bafflement with others.
Hmm.
And to me, if the point is just like to push a lot of comic fan buttons, um, I guess that defines your audience. And I was hoping that there would be a movie that would capture Superman
Right.
and, as you said, feel like a really good recreation on the screen of what it's like to read a good comic book, and also not assault people with too much
Right.
long fight scenes and CGI, and have an appeal for a larger audience. Because when I saw it, like I was surrounded by we were surrounded by people
Hmm.
who were comics fans.
Right.
You could hear the conversations,
Sure.
you could see the T-shirts. That was the demographic who was there on opening day.
So I went early in the morning for a movie, 10:30 in the morning, because it was not a very large crowd. So I had
Hmm.
no real good judgment with that. It was a mixed bag of mostly retiree types and some people with their kids. And my oldest son went with me. He's in his late 20s. Not a comic book, I mean, someone who likes superheroes, but has never been a big comic book reader. So like, he'd seen, various movies. He saw, the Justice League cartoons and all that kind of stuff back in the 90s. So he had a little bit of background, but not a ton. I don't think the comic book part, like he didn't know who Guy Gardner was, for example. I don't think he has any
Yeah,
reason to have known. I don't think any of that bothered him in the least, not
yeah.
knowing. Anyway, I mean, I guess so. And maybe we
Well,
can.
it didn't bother the person I saw it with,
Hmm.
but and she asked like, "Oh, is Green Lantern a character? A big
Yeah.
character in
Yeah.
DC Comics?" And I did not, kind of then bombard her with Green
Yes.
Lantern facts.
Here. I did show my son when Batman slowed Guy Gardner, but anyway.
Oh, that is a classic comic book moment.
Yes.
I mean,
Um,
I mean, that's one of those things that, you really should show to your son
that's right.
as a good role model, to
Absolutely.
show, how to punch people and lay them low with a single blow.
A single blow.
In other words, you're
Um,
a bad father, Stephen, is what I'm
Apparently.
saying.
No, it's fair. It's fair. I mean, I'll say this, and then maybe we can make a final recommendation, and maybe we can move on to more spoilerific kinds of conversations. So
Yeah.
I liked, and maybe this is again my bias against origin stories, um, and against any the attempts at movies, including the original Superman, that want to pretend like this is like the very first superhero and the whole world's adapting to this. I like kind of the we're in a world where superheroes already exist, Superman's already been in operation, and it's okay that you don't know anything about these characters. Like I don't really know that. I know a little bit about Mr. Terrific. I know about his long-term origins. I know about some of his more recent iteration, but I don't know a lot about him. So that was perfectly fine for
Hmm.
me.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just kind of like it's almost like in media res, maybe it's in media comic book, but it's like, you just join in the middle of this world. And I think it's okay that there are deep references that maybe nerds like us get that other people don't get. I don't know. But I know I would. So I guess the bottom line is this. I think this is recognizing there have been a whole lot of superhero movies lately, and I've gotten a little tired of them, to be totally frank.
Oh,
And I'm
same here.
trying to think about what the last one was that I saw, and I couldn't tell you right now. Um, but I enjoyed it enough that I was not disappointed in going. I would recommend if you like Superman, I would say go see the movie. I think it was worth seeing in the theater. I didn't have quite the same auditory bombardment. I did see it it wasn't IMAX. It's AMC's version of the big whatever, the biggest theater because that was the time that I wanted to see it at. Um, but it's a comic book movie, and for me, it was a satisfying comic book movie, and I liked the characterizations. Although I agree with you that it could have been a deeper examination of characters. I would have liked to have seen that, and I think
Yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, I would add to the list of things that really do recreate some good things about comic books that you want people who are not comic books fans to kind of see and
Hmm.
maybe give them an opportunity to appreciate as well. Like in the cinematography, there were some shots that looked like they came out of a comic book, out of a
Hmm.
really good comic book. And we've
Yep.
talked about like when we really love illustrators, just how enthusiastic about their art that we can get. So there's like a scene where there's like billowing clouds of dust and Superman is kind of hanging there above it after having just saved somebody, and it's like,
Yes. Yeah.
yes, that
Yeah.
could have been a full
Yeah. You're
page
right.
illustration in a comic book. But then, to go to the pulverizing, and I don't want to just say it was the sound, it was also the visuals. I mean, like some of the fight scenes, are
No,
just like a lot of like the modern way that superhero movies do nowadays, where like with some directors they're like constantly cutting back and forth, and it's like it's kind of visual bombardment that you're experiencing.
I
That
will agree with that, I'm kind of holding off because there's a specific scene I want to talk about, but I don't want to again spoil any scenes. There were moments I think probably more that bothered you than bothered me, but one in particular where the CGI just didn't do it for me.
Yeah,
Uh, it,
I
Go
kind of
ahead.
missed the practical effects of the
Mm,
first Superman movie, the
yeah.
Christopher Reeve one. And I thought because some of that, like if you want to be, visually confusing or make a fight scene seem, like it's like everything is turned up to 11, great. That works for a limited amount of time. If you do it too much, then it becomes numbing.
No, I see
And,
that.
and,
Yeah.
and there was way too much of it, and the CGI was sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I said I miss practical effects, aside from I like practical effects, they often make, I think, a better spectacle on the screen than just CGI. I think mixing the two is a good idea, but it also is a constraint. It is
Hmm.
something that then makes you use the exciting action scenes sparingly, and you put your attention into making them work.
No, I think that's fair. Although on the flip side, I did think about this because I'm in my own internal, monologue about the CGI. Um, by the same token, I think if I have to choose, I prefer too much CGI to being so aware of styrofoam boulders and you know
Well, that's true.
and sets made out of cardboard. So I mean,
But then, do you
yeah,
need to have necessarily as many of the situations that demand CGI in the
no,
story?
no, you don't.
I mean,
I agree with
or
that.
Or is the story being created to justify the CGI? Which I'm not saying that's the case with this movie, but is often the case with other movies.
I would agree that as in general, I mean, there is an unfortunate and maybe somewhat necessary element of all these superhero movies that have a certain tempo. A problem gets introduced, a bad guy gets introduced. You have at least one fight where the hero is either incapacitated in some way or just loses and then has to figure out how to fight. And then there's a big fight scene at the end. I mean, there's some of that in practically all these movies, and I would like to see more creativity in that area. So there are limitations to the form, I suppose, and there are some tropes and some just, I mean, cliched structure in the film to a degree that it seems almost inescapable in most of these movies.
Yeah, and so let me kind of maybe beat this point into the ground a little more. Um, when did it come out? It was like a year ago, year and a half ago. Do you remember the Paw Patrol movie when it came out?
I'm a, I don't, I, you have grandchildren. I have
Well, I'm just
20-year-olds.
asking if you were aware
I
of it.
know that exists. Yes, 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 yes.
Well, you are bad parents, so you could have taken them to a crappy children's movie, even
That's
though it
right.
was not anywhere within their age range. So so we went, to see the Paw Patrol movie with the grandkids, and it's of a piece of a lot of bad children's movies that replace writing a good story and making the characters interesting, making the situations engaging with spectacle.
Hmm.
And so there was like just a lot of, action scenes, one after the other, people, the characters being put into, extremely dangerous situations. And the kids got a little stressed out by this,
Hmm.
because it went on for a while, right? It's a movie. And it's not just,
Right.
like a 15-minute cartoon. So that was something which struck me about kids' movies. Also, when we were watching the movie, we're waiting for the movie to start, and you're going through the hour and a half of ads and trailers. One of the trailers was for Cat in the Hat. Did you see that?
I did. That was on yesterday.
I
Yes.
thought that was another movie where I thought, does it have to be a roller coaster ride? Really? It's Cat in the Hat. It's Cat in the freaking Hat. Like,
I
why
get-
is this being turned into an action movie for kids? Yeah, and then I watched this movie, which I'm thinking, would I take my grandkids to see the Superman movie? And my answer was no.
yeah.
And I know a lot of it would just be completely confusing them. And undoubtedly, a lot of it would be really cool for them. But also,
Hmm.
it's like, man, I don't know if I'd want to put them through that, to be honest. Maybe that's me being too dainty as a grandparent, but I'm
Well, how old's your oldest? I forget.
9.
I 9, I think could work.
Okay. But anyway, it does it
But I
have
mean,
to be, but it
I'm
has
not
it
telling you
have to,
yet, Tom,
but
you're a
does
bad grandpa because you won't take your kids. No, that's
well,
I
I
two
know
can
I
play at this
am.
game.
I am. Ah,
Um,
ha, ha, ha. But I'm saying, does it have to be like that? I don't.
movies are just kinetic. There's too much kinetic. Movies are always kinetic. I guess maybe in some ways I discount that out. I assume there's going to be a lot of that kind of motion, and yet some of the CGI stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, maybe we should just say. So would you not recommend to our listeners to go see the film? What's your recommendation?
I would say if you are a comics fan and you appreciate not just the feel of comics, but also a lot of these references, I would say go see it. If you're an average Joe or Jane, I would not recommend the movie.
Okay, so okay, I gotta stop. If you're an average Joe or Jane, how in the heck are you listening to Ancient Geeks? That's what I want to know.
Because you're a nice person who's a friend or family
There we
member,
go.
and
There we go. So I'll ask this question one more
yeah,
way. So, and again, and I can't really do it. Maybe you can't either. But conversely, though, I'll even do it this way.
okay,
Because I've only really seen in a way that I could talk about them intelligently the four Christopher Reeve movies.
yeah,
I would rank this movie right now at least between and better than 3 and 4.
oh yeah. So glad you brought up 3. So one of the things I've seen, thanks to the miracle of social media, is a lot of people in like Facebook groups or Reddit.
Yeah.
forums and so forth who talk about having seen Superman 3 when it came out,
Right.
remember being really freaked out by the scene where the woman is turned into a robot.
Okay.
And that's, again, like we're talking about 5 minutes of
Right.
a 2 hour movie.
Right.
There is, I think, the possibility of having that times 10
Mm.
for this particular movie or a lot of superhero movies nowadays. Um,
I'm things you're thinking, and I know I'm half ignoring you. I apologize, but I take your point though. There's a lot of simulation. How about that?
right. Well, okay. And can I continue, or am I
Nope.
being
No, you're
annoying?
being no, no. Go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so I put together a list of some of my favorite Superman stories from modern times. And I would certainly we're going to talk about John Byrne's Fantastic Four in an episode coming up. But, I would say John Byrne's reboot of the character,
Hmm.
the Man of Steel, miniseries, and then when he had the run on Superman and Action Comics. I also said All-Star Superman was really
Hmm.
great. The limited series Superman for All Seasons. Um, Superman Smashes the Klan, the Loeb McGinnis run on Superman. I mean, for a lot of people listening, this means nothing. But
Right.
I'll just say, having reread both All Star Superman and Superman for All Seasons,
Hmm.
they're not roller coasters.
Right.
They don't fall back on constant fight scenes.
Mm.
In fact, like in Superman for All Seasons, I'm about three-quarters of the way through it right now. It is a character study from the standpoint of different people who know Superman.
Hmm.
Like so, Pa Kent, uh, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor. I mean, you get to hear the story, from their vantage points, at like the early days of Superman and Metropolis, or when Clark first, kind of like graduate school and then leaves to go to the big city. Um, those are really great stories, I think. And, some of them, like the John Byrne run, yeah, they're big superhero fight scenes, but they're not overdone. And they're embedded in, developing interesting things about, Lois Lane, about Jimmy and Perry and all the other people at the Daily Planet, about Star Labs or other people who were in supporting roles in the Superman universe. And there are all sorts of wacky things that happen with aliens and Irish spooks and who knows what else, that happen in the story. But it's not overdone. And I just I don't know. As I said, I feel like I'm banging on the same nail over and over again. But that was I was what was tailoring my expectations of going to a good Superman movie that recreates the feel of the comics. And by the way, some of those fight scenes in the comics, I really, really enjoy. Like Superman, Batman. For those of you who don't know it, there was I don't know how long ago, several years ago at least. A new Superman, Batman, very kind of cartoony art style, and Superman and Batman kind of then become outlaws, and other superheroes are hired to go bring him in, and so big fight scenes. They're a lot of fun. If I remember correctly, one of them happened in Washington, D.C., and they're like slamming into the Washington Monument and the Capitol building. That's all cool, but that's cool because we know Superman and Batman in a way that this movie didn't quite set up. And to your point, it doesn't have to be a long origin story, but just
Hmm.
like something more for you to care about some of the people you're seeing on the screen.
Fair enough. So I guess now we will warn our listeners we're going to talk about the movie in a way that will spoil it. So if you don't want to hear any details beyond what we've already described, if you've hung in this far, which we appreciate, be warned.
We are the
Red alert.
spoiling, we are the
Red
spoiling,
alert.
we are the spoiling spoilers who spoil.
Let the spoiling begin. Okay.
All right. Where
So
should we
where
begin?
where do you want to
Well,
start?
so I've been so negative. I'm gonna start by saying some of the things I liked.
Oh, sure. Now that
So,
everyone's left, no one's
oh, now that
listening
everyone's
anymore.
left. So we've talked about some of them already.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that the Krypton reveal like what the message from his
Hmm.
parents really was. I thought that was very clever.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
I mean, like again, I think there are a lot of really clever things in this movie. I just don't think it hangs together really well as a movie.
There were some things that I guessed very quickly. I figured out who Ultraman was immediately.
Yeah,
I didn't. I should have realized that that the message was missing meant something. That was kind of that was a surprise. Yeah,
yeah,
and was there a comic that did that where that was? I feel like that storyline comes from somewhere,
could be.
but
Though
maybe
I
I'm
find
imagining it.
I thought the Ultraman reveal was not at all a surprise.
No, that's what I said. That I knew from immediately how so they got into Fortress of Solitude and why was he able to
Right.
beat Superman. That was I didn't believe that some made up country had a superhero even with Lex's help that could do that.
Yeah,
I,
and I was grateful he didn't say me am Bizarro. That was
yes,
fine.
that was fine. Yes, that was good.
Yeah.
I did wonder why he
I'm
didn't
not a big
make.
fan of Bizarro.
I'm not either. Um, Though I wondered if he could make one way, didn't he make six or 12?
Yeah, that's a good
But
question.
a line of
Oh
dialogue would
well.
have solved that problem. That's okay. No big
Yeah.
deal.
I mean I like Crypto.
Crypto was great.
Yeah.
I like the fact that Crypto, because my dog is not that well behaved, does not really listen.
Right.
No.
I mean, a couple of times it went a little too far. You know, it's like,
Sure.
okay, we got it. But,
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
but in general, having crypto was really a good touch. I thought the first scenes with Clark and Lois were really good.
Yes.
The chemistry was there,
Mm-hmm.
but also, kind of that interview
Mm-hmm.
that she starts with him and then kind of falls apart. I thought that
Yes.
was a really good scene.
Yes.
Um, and then they reconcile later in a very
Mm-hmm.
easy, natural way.
Yes.
Um,
No, I thought, as I said at the beginning, I thought Brosnahan was really, really good in this role. I liked the fact that she was involved throughout the movie.
mhm.
She was not annoying. Lois often is annoying to me for whatever reason
Oh
in the
yeah,
past.
yeah. I was not a
And
fan of Margot Kidder.
no, I mean I like that movie and her. The only thing I say about the Margot Kidder portrayal was it was a little different.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I didn't quite. I didn't think, oh, they're in love. Just I don't know.
No, I mean, she was
Uh,
such a hard-bitten character.
yes,
They
yes, yes.
succeeded at that, and then it was kind of hard to understand
Yeah,
the
exactly.
relationship.
Um,
Uh,
and I didn't just thought about it right now, which is actually good. Superman is never motivated in this movie because of Lois being in danger.
right.
Because I mean, the first movie he has to, turn back time just like Cher to get her
Right.
out of the car. And the second movie is very much about so I liked it. Maybe this is part of why I like Lois Lane, just sort of occurring to me, and how it has it evolved in the comic. Instead of either being this sort of like, oh, it's unrequited love that just can't happen for reasons that there's no reason why they can't have a relationship except that it's got to be a mystery and a secret and all this kind of stuff. But also, she feels like an organic part of his life, unlike instead of being some motivator for his behavior. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what did you
All
think
right.
about Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor?
He didn't work for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought there was way too much exposition at the end about him
Mm-hmm.
kind of explaining something we should have understood earlier about his
Mm-hmm.
malice towards Superman.
Right.
And
Okay, that's fair.
I didn't think that that particular monologue was well written. It didn't work for me. What did you
He
think?
was no Luthen Rail, is what you're telling me.
No, no.
I actually I agree that they could have better developed Lex's animus. I don't think it would have been that difficult. I like the version of Lex Luthor, which is from the comics, where he just resents the fact that Superman is as powerful and as significant as he is, and sort of overshadows Lex and his genius.
Yeah.
I do like billionaire, super smart Lex. He felt a little Doctor Doomy at parts in this movie, to be honest.
Yeah, and the exposition happened in the middle of this, everything again cranked up to 11 in this movie,
Mhm.
scene of, world destroying peril. all these things are happening. And it's like,
Right.
okay, let's have a chat about your insecurities about
Well,
being
yeah, the one
a mere human. Yeah.
mustache guy wanted to. I don't remember his name. Wanted him to chill out. I kind of. I mean, I liked him as Lex. I think better more than you did.
As an
I
actor, he's great. I love
yeah,
Nicholas Hoult. I just thought his material wasn't good.
that's fair. I did kind of like the way in which he was using the clone and the way in which he was, directing and had studied and all this whole concept and sort of the whole almost video gamification of the whole thing. I liked all that actually.
Yeah, I thought that
Um,
was really clever. The, move number 90C,
yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah, that was good.
yeah.
And then how, Superman figures it out and,
Yes,
crypto disables the cameras. That was really
yes,
good. That
yeah. I
was really
like that.
good.
That was good.
Um, so we talked a little bit about Guy Gardner. I thought that was good.
I thought Nathan Fillion, it's hard to go wrong with Nathan Fillion, isn't it?
Oh God,
Uh,
yes. Yeah,
but he
he's
was really good as Guy Gardner and obnoxious enough, but not. I was glad because you could have made that even more obnoxious.
yes.
And clearly they're setting up, because there's a Maxwell Lord in the background cameo on camera. He's
Yeah,
name checked a couple of times. And I mean, obviously the Justice League.
right.
There's there are two scenes. I missed one because I mean, I am an ancient geek and I had to go to the bathroom. So I had got up and I tried to get back. I think there was a mid scene that I didn't see, and I meant to look before we record to see if anybody's spoiled it yet. There is a very end scene that's not worth waiting for, where it's a Mr. Terrific and Superman, like almost a little bit they do at the end over the buildings being. But anyway, I saw that
Oh,
one,
okay.
I
Right.
was expecting maybe a sort of Nick Fury shows up and talks about, hey, maybe we're the Justice League. But I don't know if there was one, so I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Um,
Aha, so I did miss something after the
yeah,
credits
you
rolled.
did. I think there was. I heard a reference. I was listening to a podcast that I didn't finish, and they mentioned two scenes. So there was the one at the very very end is the buildings are put back together
Yeah.
after the crack gets put back, and Superman's kind of like saying, "Well, they didn't quite go back together." And Mr. Terrific's kind of like, "Well, man, what do you expect? I got them back together. You want it perfect?"
Yeah.
And anyway, it's that kind of thing. But I will say this, and I think this is a legitimate area of, and part of maybe your there's too much in the movie, although it's not the action. The Justice Gang, which I found to be fine. I did like again. I like the notion of these comic book movies existing in a world where there are other superheroes who are not going to bat an eye about it, just the way that it is, and that they know one another and that they would show up. It's an interesting mix, right? I mean, Guy Gardner does go back to the Maxwell Award version of the Justice League, which we already sort of made a passing reference to for those that don't remember the reboot of Justice League
Yeah.
after Crisis in the 80s. Um, Hawk Girl, I liked her screaming, her screech, but I don't. As a character, she was extremely, not barely there.
Well, she wasn't a
Um,
character.
no, she
She,
wasn't.
yeah.
Uh,
And
and then
Metamorpho too.
Same with Metamorpho. I was expecting because Metamorpho to me he's not what I expected he would sound like. As I recall, he tends to be kind of a wisecracking guy, and he
Yeah, but
does
also
it.
a sad guy,
Yeah, yeah,
who's he's kind of like the Thing in that he's kind of made
that's right.
made grotesque and then has to live with that. And anyway,
But Mr. Terrific though was great. I really, really enjoyed him. Now, granted, he plays a bigger role. I will say that by having, as usual is the case, although it didn't feel to me as bad as some of these movies. But definitionally, if you have that many extra characters, you do squeeze out time for the other characters. So could have been more maybe character development for Lois and Clark if they weren't there. But I also don't feel like they were superfluous in the way sometimes the extra characters are added in.
yeah. Well, so let's go back to Hawk Girl for a moment.
Please.
Hawk Woman, come on.
Fair enough.
Though she was officially Hawk Girl in the movie, wasn't she?
Yes. And in the
She should be.
comics, still, as far as I know,
That's
isn't she? At
I
least she's not
have
Hawk Chick. I mean, it could be
yeah,
worse.
Hawk Dame. And Hawkman talks like Frank Sinatra. Hey, baby cakes.
There you go. Oh, there you
Uh,
go.
all right. So at the end, the scene where she drops the president,
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I did not like that at all. And there were people laughing at that in the theater. And
Mm,
I thought, well, that's one of those moments when you wonder, maybe I'm the wrong person for this movie.
mm,
Maybe I'm too much of a tender soul. But that, like we're drawing these borders, between like what a hero should do,
right, right,
versus what
right.
a hero shouldn't do, and the Pa Kent speech about you're defined by your decisions and your
Hmm.
actions,
Hmm.
right? To have one of Superman's colleagues drop a man to his death
Yes,
just callously.
yes,
It wasn't like, oh my God, I've got to save somebody's life. I've got to
right.
shoot this guy who has a machine gun pointed at a group of school children. It was just, an unnecessary murder. It's like, what are you laughing at? And how unlike the tone this is trying to set about superheroes,
No,
supposedly in the rest of the movie.
that was a mistake, just straight up a mistake. And I agree with you. It doesn't fit the tone of the film, or the alleged lesson that the movie or the theme of the movie. I didn't. I mean, I think part of it, as I constantly try to make all these conversations, even about contemporary things, fit the ancient geeks theme. And part of it is we came up in an era in which the heroes just didn't kill people, right?
Yeah.
And and then that's subtly and sometimes not so subtly shifted over the years. And it's much more frequently that it happens, right? So I don't know how much that's the sensibility thing, and maybe why you found people laughing in the theaters. But I just that was I made a list of things I specifically didn't like, and I don't really have a long list, unlike some people.
Mr.
But
Negative.
Mr. Negative. But that I did not like that. And okay, here's a nerd gripe.
Yeah.
um, since that's what we are. So there's the whole thing, which I thought also I would critique this, that I understand and I like the idea, by the way, that there were these troll farms in the Pocket Universe. I
Yeah.
kind of like that. So I do get the sort of the commentary on the way in which public opinion is so easily manipulated. Although they really turn on Superman real fast in that one scene about him, but the whole alien thing, it's like, isn't Hawk Girl an alien?
Yeah.
But that doesn't get brought up unless it's a whole different Hawk Girl.
Well,
And of
and
course,
Green Lantern works for aliens.
but he did at least say that in the movie. That
Yeah.
was at least
Right.
acknowledged in the movie.
Yeah.
But it was just sort of an odd. I don't know. There was some stuff there that kind of got left on the floor, so to speak, that should have been dealt with. But that's a side gripe. But okay, let's delve into, if you don't mind, before we get too
Hmm.
far afield on minutia. Um, let's talk about the CGI. So the scene that I was thinking about that really got me,
Hmm.
although as I stop and think about some other things, there's another scene that I would also critique. When Lex and the Engineer and Ultraman all break into the Fortress of Solitude
Yeah.
and they have the fight with the robots, that just felt like it. It really, the interaction of all of the fighting with the humans that were there didn't look right to me. It just was
No.
way too kinetic and way too crowded. It just didn't. I didn't care. That one really bothered me. And I guess I would also say some of the stuff in the Pocket Universe got a bit ridiculous with the proton whatever thing and
Right.
the deliverer.
Anti-proton river.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It didn't bother me per se, but that one, if I were going to pick a moment that I thought maybe a scene went on too long for me,
Yeah.
and I'm Mr. Positive, that that was the one that, like, okay, this is a bit much.
So here's a thought. If you're going to put a interdimensional prison where people are disappeared to, little
Yes.
on the nose these days,
Yes. No,
uh,
I haven't thought about that too, but
yeah, why don't you put the actual prison part closer to the portal
yeah, yeah.
to the
Yeah, that part was a
the
little
universe?
clearer. The
Yeah,
one thing that actually bumped me also, because every time they went through the boom tube, which is what I kept thinking about, but
yeah,
the portal, um, they end up on a platform. Except the
right.
one time when Mr. Terrific and Lois came through, it was just to nothing, and
Yeah,
that didn't make any sense. Just in terms of the geography that they had set up within the Pocket Universe.
Yeah, well,
Before,
to me, like the distance was just so they could have a scene where,
yes,
oh, where is this? You know, the clock is
yeah,
ticking.
I agree.
Yeah,
That was too much artifice. I will totally agree
yeah,
with you on that one. Um, you know, I could accept it being some distant. They had to take the little barge, which made me think about the River Styx, but um, it seemed like a too vast a space for no particular reason. It just did,
hmm
as you say. I will say this, and I think it's noteworthy um, because the film was clearly made before what we're witnessing on the streets of America right now. But the scene where Superman turns himself in and they feel the need to like slam him to the ground while they
Right.
cuff him just seemed a little too reminiscent of things that I'm seeing in the news.
I know. Well,
And
and they shot that probably long before.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about that. It is not was not filmed in the last 3 months. It was filmed a year or more ago, probably.
yeah,
And but that was really, because especially as it was supposed to be the government taking him into custody and all that kind of stuff in this camp and all that kind of stuff was really kind of. And I'll go ahead and break the seal. I try not to get too much into politics in this podcast, but I will say this. There's been some griping about the movie in certain cable news circles, specifically in
hmm
response to. I mean, I saw a clip of Kellyanne Conway on Fox News complaining that James Gunn called this an immigrant story. And partially, one, the nerd in me, like, dude, yeah, it's always been an immigrant story. He's not from here.
right.
And then,
And they didn't play that up a lot, other than just
no,
like the restored video message included something
yeah.
where
And
alien values didn't quite match.
that's right. But also, if you see your political party in this movie, then maybe you should stop and ask yourself why you see that. Because again,
Yeah,
some of this was done before any of this happened, yet here it is on screen, and it's supposed to be bad. It's coded bad. Slamming a prisoner's face into the ground while you cuff them while they are not resisting
right.
is bad, and it's supposed to be bad.
Right. It's supposed to make you understand these are the villains.
Yes, that's right. Anyway, I won't go dip down that road. It just occurred to me and it was worth pointing out.
Yeah.
Um,
Something I have to put in. We both really liked Lois Lane in this movie.
yes, yes,
And the engineer was an okay villain.
she was fine.
There were a couple of other female characters I took offense at.
Yep. Go ahead.
So Eve,
Mm-hmm.
who was like basically Valerie Perine's character from the
Mm-hmm.
first movie, was such the ditzy blonde. It was painful.
Mm-hmm.
And if that had been the only character treated that way, female character treated that way, I would have felt differently than I'm about to say. But then Cat Grant, the one of the Daily Planet. For those who don't know, understand the reference, she's the Daily Planet woman with the low cleavage and the red
Mm-hmm.
fingernails and high heels and too tight dress and so forth. Like we were talking before the podcast that in recent Superman runs, maybe that's the sort of character she became. But that's not the character that she was. She was vampy, but not like
Mm-hmm.
that in the earlier Superman, like when it was it was rebooted in the 90s. And B, um, why would you have to have that character be like that? It just really that's the depiction of women in this movie.
No, it's unnecessary. I mean, as I said, I mean, I knew who she was. I knew what they were going for, and they were going for what I have seen again in my somewhat limited examination of more contemporary Superman. That's the joke. The visual joke in particular is straight out of the comics from what I've seen.
Right,
Not
but
to defend it
you don't
here.
have to repeat that
No,
mistake.
I'm not defending. I'm just explaining. I and I understand your point,
Yeah.
and I don't disagree with your point.
The only other little thing, like I said, I liked about the first scenes with Clark and Lois, he was getting kind of emotional to the point where I thought, man, Superman's angry.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
He gets really angry, and he has
Yes,
superpowers.
that's right.
I thought that was going to be the play, although they did that a little bit later, when he bursts into
Lex's office, yeah.
Liz's office, yeah, like make sure he barks at Eve, make sure you get this on video.
Yes.
Um, anyway, I'm not sure necessarily that's a big flaw. It's a little nit, but I kind of had expected that to play a little bit more than some of the
Mm,
the questionable alien, like suddenly everyone thinks that Superman is bad because of a message he never heard.
right. Right, right, right. No, I mean, again, if I were going to rewrite the film, I would have preferred that Lex was a little more conniving and clever about that whole thing instead of just accidentally finding it and then being able to broadcast it and then create this immediate response. I think they were trying to again connect in this social media campaign, and this was just a sort of part of it. It's kind of
Right.
it's to comp something else that's happening right now in Ancient Geeks. If you haven't listened, we're talking about Andor, but the whole Gorman thing fits,
Yeah.
right? The Imperial propaganda office trying to seed a particular attitude so that when the Gorman massacre happens, it can be spun as a
Mhm.
rebellion. Um, so, I mean, I think the elements of it there. Maybe I'm being too forgiving because it's a comic book movie, but I mean, the elements are there, but maybe not as developed as I would like. I mean, I was kind of glad they didn't spend a whole lot of time because it's almost become a trope now that someone gets mad and gets videotaped and it gets put online, and that's like part of the.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And so, I mean, they did show that it was posted, but it didn't. I didn't need that, a big examination of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. I agree with you. I'll amend a little bit what I just said. All right. Any
sure.
other things before we wrap up about what you really liked or really didn't like?
Um, I think we've hit pretty much everything. I will say this. I was surprised. Okay, there one that's connected. It won't take long. I was surprised I liked Jimmy Olsen as much as I did as a character because Jimmy Olsen tends to be someone that I can live without. And I enjoyed him in the movie. Um, I thought it was a little silly that he had this connection with Lex's girlfriend, and it was as direct a connection as it was, and it became so pivotal in the story.
Yeah.
That seemed a bit contrived. Again, it's a comic book movie, but still, I did like the idea that journalism kind of helped save the day. That's kind of a
Yes.
nice. I like that.
That's a great point. That's a great
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
So, and one super minor thing, Ma and Pa can't. That's not how people from Kansas sound.
Okay, so that's something that also bugged me. Thank you for bringing that up. Right. So here, he's the Kansas farm boy from Smallville and, kind of the salt of the earth parents who have taught him, good, upright American
Hmm.
values and so forth. Why turn them into hillbillies?
I don't
I
know.
did not understand that.
I didn't get it either, but it was very minor. But I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, that didn't work for me. But again,
Yeah.
it's like this, like the movie, like, or I should say, James Gunn wants an opportunity to be a little condescending or be a little snarky. I Anyway, I got one last thing to say about that near the very end of this podcast. But before we get there, so in terms of ranking Superman on screen, people cast
Hmm.
as Superman. Um, so is it still Christopher Reeve for you tops the
I mean,
list?
I think so. I mean, Christopher Reeves was, but again, that's partially the nostalgia of it all.
Yeah,
Um, it's a different movie in a different context because again, it's
yeah,
like he's the only superhero, and it's again we talked about it. And look, and we can I meant to reference the beginning of the podcast. We did a whole episode on early on in our run because wow, we're like at least 2 dozen in now, so it's a long time ago. We did an episode about Superman. We really talked about
yeah,
the fact that we really weren't Superman fans in the same way that we were maybe Batman fans.
right.
Um, I do think if I were sitting down to make a list of movies, of superhero movies, Superman the Motion Picture would be very high in the list.
Hmm.
And I think as a complete movie, it is, and it's a good movie, but um, he encapsulates a particular vision of Superman. But I think Corn Sweat comes very close, and I certainly of the era of
Very
all
close.
all the ones that we've. And in some ways, this is having recency bias, and I'm going to put all that on the table. In the current era of superhero movies and what DC needs to do, I think I put him really, really high up. I think he encapsulates his character very, very well. I liked the fact that he was somewhat corny and sweet, and that he was, but I'm repeating myself, but a big Boy Scout who's just wanted to do the right thing, and maybe didn't
Right.
always and save the squirrel. I know in some ways it's silly, but I think he was to make a point,
Oh, that was
right?
terrific. Yeah.
And all this kind of stuff. And I do think that's all captured, and maybe that's really the maybe I'm forgiving the movie of some of its downsides because I liked Superman and Lois, Superman slash Clark and Lois so much.
Yes.
And so I would like to see another movie. That's I think that's high praise, right? I would like to see more of these characters and these actors. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I think he ranks way up there right now. And I can't think of anybody else of all the people that have played Superman on the small and big screen. I can't think of anybody better than him. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's really close between him and Christopher Reeve.
Hmm.
I think if the movie had given him more opportunities to be the big blue Boy Scout,
Hmm.
or show more with his parents, or show more
Hmm.
with Lois, or
Hmm.
other characters too, with Perry White,
Yeah.
the Clark Kent, the reporter, and so forth. I definitely would have given Christopher Reeve more of a run for his money. He might have,
Hmm.
even become the best Superman. I don't
Hmm.
know, but it's
Yeah.
he's still like an incredibly close number two for me. How about Lois Lane? So we like
Uh,
this Lois Lane the best. Who would you put
no,
as number
I
two?
that's a good question. Hmm. I mean, Kidder at least gives a memorable performance.
Yeah,
Um,
I would
but
put Terry Hatcher.
yeah, Terry Hatcher would be the other one I was going to say probably would fit as the second. But I just, to me, there's a big gap here. I mean, Rachel Brosnahan really, really, to me, just elevated this character or the writing, whatever it was. But I just really liked her
Yeah,
in a way that I've never like. Oh, I would like more Lois Lane. I've never felt that way before.
right. So gold star to the casting director for
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
And then Luthor.
Yeah, I liked Holt quite a lot, and I like this version of Luther. And I mean, Hackman again. I keep going back to this movie because it's the one I know the best. I mean, Hackman is Hackman, but I like him in that movie, but he's not really Lex Luthor in my. Never was. Even when I liked them first saw the movie, it's like this really isn't the Lex Luthor that I expect to see on screen. He felt like a very much a movie version of his character. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, in a weird way, he at times, kind of like it felt like he was winking at the
Yeah,
camera.
yeah.
I still like him better though. I mean,
Okay, that's totally fair.
I still like him better.
No,
Maybe it's because I like Gene Hackman a lot, and I've watched the Royal Tenenbaums too many times.
fair enough.
Okay, all right. So wrapping up here, how do you feel now about James Gunn taking creative control of the DCU?
I feel pretty good about it. I think you're going to be Mr. Negative, but
I am Mr. Negative.
I certainly. I mean, okay, there's two different. There's at least two ways to address this, and one way I think I can eke out a positive comment from you, which is compared to where we've been, surely you find this better.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
So
I,
there's
I
that.
like this
So
better than the Snyder
I mean,
movies.
there. I mean, honestly, and I kind of asked this earlier, but is there another DC comic book movie in the current era? I mean, up this sort of as it meshes with the MCU, is there a better movie than this one?
Yeah, the DCU
The
or
DCU.
the
The
DCU.
DCU, is there a better movie than this one?
Yeah, I'm thinking over Aquaman, probably Wonder Woman. I enjoyed Wonder
Wonder
Woman.
Woman, maybe. And that one
Yeah,
I could accept an argument on that one.
yeah.
But I mean, part of it's just comparing it to nonsense. But I mean, and I haven't seen the newest Batman, which I guess has gotten some pot. Have you seen the newest
I
Batman?
have not seen.
The Batman, I think.
I keep like reaching to
Yeah, yeah,
push the button to watch it, and I realize there's something else I need to watch,
sure,
so it just hasn't become a necessity to
right.
see it. So
Anyway,
yeah, so the person I would compare James Gunn to is Taika Waititi.
hmm
who can be good.
Hmm.
I really liked Thor Ragnarok. I mean, that
I
was
did
one of
too.
those movies where I felt like, oh my God, finally we get to see Thor on screen.
Right.
I like better than the predecessor movies,
Yes. Oh yeah,
that the
totally.
MCU did. But then, Love and Thunder showed that the guy can't avoid the impulse to be snarky,
Hmm.
and to step on every scene with a joke. And I kind of feel like that is a problem with James Gunn and some of the callbacks, to Peacemaker and other things that in his work that he's done so far. And
Hmm.
I was not a big fan of the Suicide Squad movie.
Right.
Not a fan of the Monster Squad animated
Right.
series. Yeah, I'm not, this
See, I
didn't make me feel warm all under about him being in charge.
I mean, I like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and my brother has said positive things about Peacemaker, which I've not watched. And so I don't have, and the Suicide Squads have never appealed to me, even though I like the comics fine. But
Oh, the
I
comics are
realize
great. The original comics were great.
yeah, I realize that maybe part of the problem is this, and I'll tell them myself because I'm constantly trying just jokes I want to like, and I do it sometimes I know on the podcast. So maybe I am the James Gunn of the situation. I can't help the need to throw some
Okay.
dumbass joke in the middle of the
Go ahead. Go
conversation.
ahead.
No, I don't have one now. I'm just like,
Oh, okay.
I'm always, the brain's always going, and I often constrain myself, although I don't always. So no, I understand what you're saying, and there is a little bit, sometimes a little too much. How about this? I don't mind snark. I think maybe I mind it less than you do, but I will agree with the following characterization that a little bit of snark goes a long way, and sometimes, and I think Gunn does fall into this category,
Yeah.
sometimes people mistake snark for cleverness and
Yes.
wit. So, I mean, I really would prefer more
Exactly.
clever and wit than just snark, but
Right.
or anyway, so I take the point, but
Yeah.
I guess I feel like it's all relative. Um, and so I feel better about the direction of DC movie making than I have the whole time of this current era, because again, none of it has really done it for me. And none of it, it just doesn't seem like they even know what they want to do with their characters. Um, and so I am at least cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. I hoped that this movie would show more signs of growth or restraint on his
Mm.
part. So, do you look forward to a sequel?
Yeah, I would like to see a sequel, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see a sequel and see if it does get better. I mean, maybe he'll hear some of the feedback, not from us, but from
Well,
other quarters.
as you pointed out at the top of this episode, there's going to be one feedback and one feedback only, and it's an S with two lines through it, and we'll see
Yeah.
how that plays out. That will
Yeah. Well,
dictate
and
much.
that and ego. Uh,
Sure. Yeah, yeah. The Living
uh,
Planet? Wrong universe, Tom. Sorry.
Hey, I just read the Fantastic Four that by John Byrne that had
Yes, that's
Ego the
right.
Living Planet in
That's
it.
right.
I always liked that character.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think though that his approach will work with other DC characters? Like, would this work with Batman?
I don't know. I do think we're at the point where we need maybe not snarky Batman, but we need Batman's this whole other problem. I don't know. I really don't know. I think. Well, here's the thing, right? I think the comp could be again, and I'm not even going to try to say the names because I'm going to say them wrong. It's Keith Giffen and I just said I wasn't going to do this, but and Jay. Anyway, never mind. The guys that did the reboot of Justice League that
Oh
had a
yeah.
lot of this humor in it. The
Hmm.
Blue Beetle and Booster Gold were funny. Guy Gardner was Guy Gardner to the nth degree, and that's where Batman slugs him when he has the whole tete-a-tete. You can still do serious Batman and still have Mr. Miracle and all these other guys being a little bit of
Hmm.
dorm room cut-ups. So maybe.
Yeah. I mean, that's my
Um,
favorite era of the Justice League.
yeah, me too. So yeah, I think it's possible with the right writers. And Gunn doesn't have to be the writer for everything as long as he's the guiding force. This just felt, there's a feeling, and that this movie has that the other ones didn't have. And so
Right.
I'm optimistic for that.
Well, I think you can be too serious.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And I think that, often some depictions of Batman have been a little ponderous that way.
Yes.
And I don't think necessarily it has to be Adam West Batman.
No.
There's something in between there that
No,
may
I
work.
think you
Like,
make it. John Byrne's depiction of the Batman Superman relationship in The Man of Steel was one that I would like to see on
yeah,
screen.
yeah, or
I
the tone in Batman the animated series. I
yes,
think that
that works.
that would work.
It doesn't have to be to put the Superman thing into it. So, like I said off mic before we started, one thing about this movie that reminded me of why Superman should never be in charge of the Justice League and Batman should, because
Hmm.
Superman is not a strategic thinker. He's just trying to do the right thing, and Batman's looking at all the angles. I would like that kind of relationship, and I thought that Byrne did a good job in the 80s of pointing out that, just because they're the two most popular characters in the DC universe in terms of publications, doesn't mean they have to be bosom buddies all the time or not at least recognize they're really very different people.
Yeah,
I don't want them to be, fighting one another until they find out, of course, that Martha has the same name of their mother, and then it's all peace and tranquility, to reference another movie that I really
right.
want to see a part of. But or nor do I want it to be Frank Miller, and which is what the movie was inspired by, The Dark Knight. But the idea that they would have some trouble with one another, that they don't approach this superheroing thing in the same way. I would like to see that on the screen. I think that Gunn can, as the guiding force, can do that. I do.
Yeah, I think he could do a good job with Green Lantern potentially.
Hmm.
But again, I don't want the Green Lantern Corps to be just an excuse for a joke.
Right.
Like when, the Green Lanterns from the 80s and 90s, around the time of Crisis in Infinite Earths, those are good, and again, they weren't super serious, all the time. And maybe James Gunn could do well with that sort of character as well.
Well, I
Um,
guess we're going to find out, right? Because there's this TV show coming out next year called Lanterns, and I think
right.
it's and then we're also going to see the Supergirl movie supposed to come out next year. Um, so we'll find out whether this works or not.
Yeah. Okay, so our last question, which we always ask, including in this special bonus edition, is there any merch you want from this movie?
Um, I mean, a stuffed crypto wouldn't be all bad, would it?
Yeah, I saw on Amazon there was a flying crypto, and then I looked at it and it looked pretty cheap and
Yeah.
tacky.
So I do occasionally like like it's a word for it, like enamel buttons, like
Yeah,
pins.
yeah.
I've got one right here that I just got of
Hmm.
the oops, jeez, that's not good for the mic. The things in the back of the neck from Star Trek.
Oh, that's great.
Um,
From Conspiracy.
good for conspiracy, the whatever they're called, the nubbin bugs as they call them on a podcast,
Yeah,
which is where that comes from. So I wouldn't mind maybe a pin. I have a place in my photo studio that I put these things, so I wouldn't mind maybe the Superman shield in the button, the new one. I like the S on the
yeah.
Superman. That would work, or crypto.
Okay. Yeah, something crypto related. I mean,
Yeah.
a flying crypto would be kind of cool,
How about a
but
crypto coin? I'm sorry.
oh no, no, please.
See, I told you there's like dumb jokes in my head constantly. Um,
That was my
the
attempt at
the
a Riddler laugh.
I thought it was Cesar Romero's The
Oh, so Caesar
Joker,
Romero. It could have been
and
that
and
too.
his
Yeah,
scheme is in fact a crypto coin.
that's true. Okay. I think we need to stop now. So thank
Yeah,
you,
I think
listeners,
yeah.
and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
That does it for our review of the Superman movie, our first special edition podcast. Thanks for listening. You can find us on the podcast app or platform of your choice. We'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe and even leave a review, because we crave attention. Because we crave attention so much, we also have an email address, someancientgeeks@gmail.com, where you can send us comments. You can also find us on Reddit, Facebook, Blue Sky, and other social media outlets. All content copyright 2025, Tom Grant and Stephen Taylor. Music by Reversed Image, whom you can find on Pixabay. See you next time. Look, up in the internet. It's a curmudgeon. It's a disgruntled podcaster. It's Mr. Negative! Yes, it's Mr. Negative, strange visitor from another planet, who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Mr. Negative! Who can deliver barbed criticisms, deliver thunderous denunciations, and who, disguised as Niles Naysayer, mild-mannered film critic for the Daily Planet, fights a never-ending battle against tired cliches, weak writing, and bad CGI. Mr. Negative!